Cheers.
Welcome to another edition of Wine Down with Elena.
And Lisha.
And today we are celebrating Wine and Cheese Day, thanks to this beautiful chalkboard with, of course, some fabulous Busher Brown pepper jelly.
Indeed.
And some beautiful rosé as well to go along with it.
Yep, and our favorite cheeses.
And so today we're going to be discussing the question of work-life balance.
Yeah.
Does it exist?
Does it? Does it really?
That's a big question. So let's get to it.
Indeed.
So how do you balance being a wife, mother, as well as your individual pursuits?
A lot of wine.
A lot of wine.
I think it's a conscious state of the very dynamic state. You always have to be on your toes, thinking about things that most people don't think about. The little nuances in life, between your children, between work, creating that balance at home, trying very hard to leave the briefcase in the car and not bring work inside is definitely a struggle for me.
Yeah.
I've made a very concerted effort over the past few years to make sure that home is home and work is work, and the two really don't come together unless we have an event.
Right. Well, I think that for me, because the office is in my home, it's a little harder, but I always want to try and focus on the positives of that. So, being home, when the girls come home and they can pop in and say hi, even if I can't run out and pick them up from school, is a great thing. But I think one of the biggest fallacies is trying to create a balance.
Precisely.
I think there's never going to be a balance. I think that if you're whichever role you're in, you need to be present in that moment. That's kind of where I would, strive for. So when I'm working, and it's hard to then, work and be a mother at the same time.
Yeah.
But I think it's, if you're able to, and compartmentalize is maybe not the right word, but when I'm being a mom, I need to be present in that role.
Yeah.
And so, I think striving for the balance is hard, and I think people, in their efforts to find this balance, it's a never-ending pursuit that I think is sometimes hard to attain, especially when we're in this space where we're focused more on the journey and not the destination, right? So for me, I think it's just trying to be present in each and every moment.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that, as you said, being present in the moment and consciously so is very important. I think a lot of young mothers really give themselves a hard time thinking that you have to create this equilibrium amongst all of the different facets of your personal kaleidoscope. And it's difficult to do that. You do need to really focus on one element at a time. And I think, we don't want to compartmentalize, but I think that's kind of the best way to go about it. Allow light to shine in one direction at a time.
Tips on how to balance work and personal life? I would say that this is assuming that we know what we're doing. And I honestly want to say that at this stage in my life, I still sometimes don't quite know what I'm doing, and it's really, I think, part of the journey. I think we're in spaces in our life where we have wisdom that's come from past experiences, but that doesn't mean necessarily that we know 100% what we're doing. Well, no. I can only talk for myself.
Yeah.
So I think tips from me would be easy on yourself, or give yourself grace to recognize that there isn't going to be a place or a time when the balance is perfect. There are going to be times when you feel guilty as a mom, you feel guilty as a wife. It's hard to be, you say it all the time, Gumby, and it's not, this is not a natural state of being. So I think that recognizing that and acknowledging the fact that it's not always going to be perfect.
No.
And be easy on yourself, give yourself grace, and when things don't pan out like the way that they were supposed to, be easy with yourself.
Yeah.
don't be so self-critical. Just accept it, roll with it, and just know that, hey, we're doing the best that we can in each and every moment.
Yeah. I think that it's a constantly evolving scenario. And I think that earlier on in our careers, what we thought was detrimental and, the foundation upon which we stood, dissolved. I think should we have go through scenarios like that now, we would evaluate it very differently. I think that having gone through the experiences that we've gone through back then simply armed us for where we are today. So as a result, there are little things that we learned along the way that have made our journeys easier. I mean, been at this motherhood thing now for a while, been in the corporate world for longer, and there's certain things that kind of create that sense of balance. So for me, it was enjoying my showers a little longer. Creating a sense of routine created a sense of predictability. And with the predictability came more moments for ease. And while they are few and sporadic, they're still there. So it's just different, whereas, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write my to-do list. I might forget where they are, but I'm going to write them. As you always say, you put your menu boards together, and that creates that sense of ease for your household because you know what people are eating when. And then when you schedule yourself to go to the supermarket at 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the middle of the week, you have to find that thing that creates a sense of balance for you. And one of the things that I've found is that if you create the sense of balance and equilibrium in ourselves, we disseminate that to those around us. And whether it be your work partner, your love partner, your children, it tends to trickle down. And so we tend to be that, the linchpin, the patex, as my mummy used to say, that kind of hold everybody together, that cohesive force. If we are calm in where we're at, the minute we start to kind of lose it and feel flustered, everybody around us just trickles down with it. So that doesn't mean we're always going to know what happens next but you just kind of have to have faith. Step out in faith, give yourself a little grace, and go with the flow. And the things that are detrimental today, in 5 years, they won't be. And as my grandmother said, if you can't solve it in half an hour, let it go.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I definitely think, to add to that, it's important to make time for yourself, and that's easier said than done. Absolutely. So whether that is, whether that is getting up and running or working out in the morning, or having a longer shower, or having a glass of wine with girlfriends at some point in the week or some point in the month, or scheduling book club get-togethers as much as possible. Yeah. I think that it's important to remember that you are a wife and a girlfriend and a mother and a daughter. So you are incredibly multifaceted, and that it's important to nurture and nourish each of those aspects, because if you don't, you're going to start resenting
one or the other,
and the journey becomes a little more twisted.
Yep.
So
that's where the balance comes in. Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
So what does a typical day look like for us? Well, there's a difference in what I would like it to look like and what it oftentimes it does. So, you always see we listen to these podcasts of successful people in business, and their day starts at 5 a.m. and they, journal and they meditate and they work out, and, as much as I strive for that, I think realistically, it depends on what happened the night before, number one. But generally, kids are in school, so it's waking up, getting them ready to go to school drop-offs. My commute to work is pretty easy when we're in office. And now that we're kind of hybrid, it's, it creates a different dynamic. But,
definitely.
Try and be at my desk, and, I actually try and get my desk about 8:30 so I can get that half an hour before to kind of settle for the day, make some plans, make a list of what is on to do. And that's just emails and responding and planning and strategizing, and then when we have our team in office, I actually love it because it's a totally different energy. It's a lot more of a cohesive, collaborative mentality. So who's having any issues, challenges, let's deal with it right away. The energy is just awesome.
Yeah.
And then it's just a general balance of, for me, work, and then school pickups and extracurricular activity drop-offs, and more work, and then trying to schedule time in the evening to shut down and spend time with the family and maybe have a glass of wine, you know. But that's generally the general kind of typical today, unless we have a site visit or a photo shoot or a video shoot, and those are the kind of things that add some diversity and some excitement.
Definitely. Forgot to mention that you're a swim mom, and so as a result, you do have some pretty early mornings sometimes.
That's right. Yes, that swim mom thing was unexpected.
I was going to say, didn't quite plan on that one.
Didn't plan on that, but you know, blessed to be on that journey. Yes.
Typical day in my life. Yeah, I think it's very much a departure from what I always envisioned it would be. I think before kids, I was definitely an early riser, very focused on career and kind of just banging out my to-do list. But since, and I think that, you know, something's important is to note is that you get the children that you're intended to get.
Absolutely.
And they are each a blessing. But mine really are a lot more like me than I had ever envisioned. In that they definitely need a longer window to wake up in the morning than I would like, or a life would like to give them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so waking up in the morning can be pretty emotional. I do have 3 daughters, and their personalities are interesting. So that is usually kind of the bar at which, how's the day gonna go? And getting everybody ready. My husband and I kind of have a great little teamwork in the morning between making breakfast and packing lunches and making sure that all of the uniform bits are together. Who's forgotten this and who's forgotten that? School drop off, and then run back. And if I'm lucky enough to have a cup of coffee, I absolutely will. And breakfast, the most important meal of the day. Could not think without it. And into office if we're in office, and if not, back in front of the computer. But yeah, kind of creating the moments. The moments to breathe. I put it on my calendar now. I have to stand up every now and then, do a little stretch, make sure I get my water every hour, particularly during the hot months. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
What advice would you give to your 25-year-old self?
Oh God, don't ask that question.
No, about work.
Well, here's the thing. So when I was 25, none of this was even part of the plan.
That's an important point.
Right? So when I was 25, I was coming out of grad school, having done my master's in journalism. So from what I expected.
Right. You couldn't have envisioned this.
I never envisioned this. A number of things I didn't envision. Living in Jamaica, owning a company, running a company. It just wasn't something that I had in my plan. I was going to be a journalist and write and just be a writer, and I you know, it's incredible to see where my journey has taken me. But if I were to give advice to my 25-year-old self, I would say just to be open to where the journey is going to take you, and don't maybe have set ideas of where you want it to go, because then you might miss opportunities.
Absolutely.
Because I would never have anticipated. And I think also that when I was 25, almost 20 years ago, I have to say, it doesn't feel like 20 years ago.
Definitely not.
Right?
No.
And so
Definitely
time,
not.
I think, is also a very interesting concept. I couldn't even imagine that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But
seems unfathomable.
I would just say be open.
Yeah.
Be open to the opportunities that present. Don't have a fixed idea of what your future is going to look like.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anybody can really prepare for that. I think you can have an idea of what you want, and maybe more the feeling that you want to have in you know, as opposed to a specific place that you want to be. Because I think that if you set yourself up for those things, you could potentially open yourself up to disappointment, or, you know, making decisions that might not necessarily be in the best for your journey. Right?
It's exactly where my head is at. Because I think sometimes when we're young, we're so hard and fast about these objectives that we have for our lives, primarily because they've been set out by our parents, and anything that deviates from that equates to failure. When the truth is that the universe is going to present to you what's intended for you. And I think that it's so incredibly powerful when you kind of not necessarily sit back and be just, you know, a guest on your roller coaster of life, but really be aware of the fact that there are opportunities that are going to present themselves, and they are doing so for your betterment. Right? And there's just so much that can come from that. So don't close yourself off to opportunities.
Absolutely.
Keep your mind open.
I definitely think that everything as is intended happens as it's intended, when it's intended. And sometimes you're right, the universe has another
plan for you.
Sometimes
so much bigger than what you actually plan for yourself.
Absolutely.
This certainly was.
Right?
Definitely. It's delicious. Well, thank you for joining us in another episode of Wind Down. We're happy to have finally made the time, and we look forward to you joining us next time. Cheers.
Cheers.